There's this quote from one of my favorite natural disaster movies from the 90s called Twister, when Helen Hunt's character is like, when I was a kid, I used to watch one of these tornadoes come in and obliterate the neighborhood and, miss this house and keep this house standing and then tear down another house. And this earthquake that happened in Myanmar a couple weeks ago is kind of like the same exact thing. It's a I think it's a 12-hour drive. Myanmar is like a 12-hour drive, an hour and a half flight from Bangkok. And where I was Pattaya. And Pattaya is a coastal town, which is, where the water is and everything. But it's 2 hours in a car from Bangkok. And even though she was talking about a tornado, it's clear that it also can apply for an earthquake. It hits here, it misses there. It's interesting. Thanks for coming back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Melissa Madison. I'm an actor and a geographical fruit fly. I moved to Thailand last year, just came back home a couple weeks ago, narrowly escaping this earthquake by a couple of days. And I am just so glad, I'm so happy, I'm so blessed, I'm so thankful for the spirit of discernment. Something was leaning on me back in January, to come back. One of the reasons was the weather was changing. And it's been accurately said that in Thailand you have 3 seasons. It's hot, hotter, and hottest. Not only was it blazing hot, it also applies to what's coming now, which is rainy season. And, where I was in Pattaya is a coastal town, and that is notorious for flooding just on a regular rainy day. I had overextended my stay by 3 times. It was just like, okay, book the flight, go home, book the flight, come back, book the flight. And then I ended up staying. It was like every time I turned around, one of my friends was calling me, let's do this, let's do that. And I just couldn't stop. Like, what in the hedonistic lifestyle? And it was just like, if I didn't want to do it, if I didn't like it, if it didn't feel good, I wasn't doing it. Everything I wanted to do, everything that I like to do, I did it. And then it became a thing where it was like, okay, you need discipline. And was about to extend another stay because I didn't want to miss. My friends were like, Melissa, you can't miss Songkran Festival. I was like, oh my God. Songkran Festival is the Thai New Year, and it's like the world's largest water fight. Oh my God. But I will be sure to make the next one, I promise. And what makes this whole thing so crazy to me, first of all, Thailand is like LA 3.0 for me. I mean, between meeting people internationally from all over the world, to the water, to the beach, to the traffic, and now these crazy earthquakes, I did not get a whole lot of time to spend in Bangkok when I was there. First of all, I was, at the beach 98% of the time. And when I went to Bangkok, it was for, it was cherry pick stuff. I was doing things or maybe went to go shoot a temple or hang out with a couple friends. But I started meeting people and noticed that a lot of them were in Bangkok. So I decided to spend my last week in Bangkok. And I actually wanted to wait to do this video because 2 of my friends were missing. One of my friends, you've seen him in a couple of my Facebook videos. He and his wife were in Bangkok, and they sent me videos. They running down steps. They were like, no shoes on their feet. The amount of people that were outside was astounding. Like, I just could not believe what I was seeing. And as a resident, in Los Angeles for over 2 decades, I assure you that you never ever get used to it. I guess the people that are, Angelinos, they're born, raised there. They're the ones that are like, oh, yeah, we felt the 5.0 and we slept through it. The difference between a 5 and a 6 is exponential. I love a cute high rise, but I've never gone as higher than the 3rd floor in Los Angeles. My dishes were stacked differently. Fine china, glass, wine glasses, everything would go typically where pots and pans would go. I made a video for my Facebook friends because I had people blowing me up. You all right? You back home? I'm like, what's going on? Why is my phone ringing? So I was telling my Facebook friends that, I had worked in one of the tallest high rises on the Los Angeles skyline, the US Bank Tower, and experienced an earthquake. And I think that US Bank Tower had 74 floors. And when I tell you that thing, it wasn't just swaying back and forth like the ones that you saw in Bangkok. This was like, it felt like a snake move, but that's because it was on rollers. I also had a couple people reach out and ask what my thoughts were as it relates to people, did I think that if the earthquake was going to affect tourism? And I honestly don't think so. Thailand got it right. I mean, one building is too many, but out of all the high rises in Bangkok, only one fell, and that was under construction. But here's the thing, though. Nobody's safe. I don't care where you are, and this is really evident of that, because who would have ever thunk it? Thailand doesn't get earthquakes like that. But you know what? I'm from Philadelphia in the United States, the northeastern corridor of the states, and we had an earthquake back in 2011. Nobody thought that we would ever have an earthquake. We're not on a major. We're not above the San Andreas fault. You know what I mean? If you want to go to Thailand, go to Thailand. Does engineering help? Absolutely. Is it foolproof? No. Live your life. Go visit Thailand. When I first got to Pattaya, I was, running around trying to do my sightseeing and, noticed something very different. There was this kid that walked into the 7-Eleven and we're like really good friends now. He's from East London. And I walked up to him and I'm like, where are the black people out here? And he started laughing or whatever. And like, we're out in Thailand, but not really. I think there was like 5 people in my building, people of color. One was from South Africa, one was from DC. They're all married to Thai women, but I was the only black woman in my building. Like, we're out there, which was the beach area. We weren't there so much. Everybody was mainly in Bangkok. I found out one of my old neighbors from LA. We used to live in Hancock Park. He used to be the lead singer for a group called Pieces of a Dream, actually from Philly. He was out there, and I was going to go support him, hit him up. He was like, yo, come through, blah, blah, blah. Went to hang out with another friend to go to the Bangkok floating market. Just a whole bunch of things that I wanted to catch up on, before I left. So Thailand, this whole thing came about. It started in school maybe 2 years ago. Half of my graduating class was from the continent of Asia. So when I thought about it, I'm like, they're living here abroad on a visa, so why can't I go over in their country and live abroad on a visa? You can call it expat, expatriate, digital nomad. No, you're a digital immigrant. Let's call a thing a thing. When I first came to Thailand, I didn't know anyone. I took one suitcase. I didn't know the language. So being an expat actually flips your perspective, right? When you live in someone else's country, now all of a sudden you're the foreigner. The one that might not speak the language fluently, might not understand social norms, or might even feel out of place. Not that happened to me, but you know what I'm saying. But having lived that definitely builds empathy. So when you return to your own country and meet other foreigners, you're more likely to remember what it felt like to be misunderstood or underestimated. You become more patient, more kind, more willing to help because you've been there. I was in my acting class, and one of the kids, he was in there, and we had to go around the room and introduce ourselves, and he was just really cocky, and it kind of pissed me off. And I was just like, he was like, yeah, I'm only here because it's an elective and I don't even know if I want to stay, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. I said, what do you do when you, like, he was making it seem like the class was beneath him. I was like, well, you might want to stay here because I've spoken to you for 3 minutes and you can't even look me in my eyes. You might want to stay here and let this class open you up. I said, what do you do when you go home and like to unwind? How do you relax? What do you do? And he's just like, I watch TV. And I was like, what do you watch? And the professor's looking at me like, where are we going with this? And he's just like, he mentioned a couple of TV shows. I said, when you get home, don't pick up the remote. What? Yeah, don't pick it up. Because essentially what you're saying is that this class is beneath you and you're going home to escape by way of an actor. So he stays in the class, and by the end of the semester, we ended up to be really cool. And during graduation, he's just like, Melissa, you should come to my country. And I was like, say less. One of the other many things that I love about Thailand, which really reminds me of Los Angeles a lot, is meeting people on an international scale. I mean, the way that we would meet and who I met. I mean, people from Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Holland. Austria, what? Dubai, Saudi Arabia. Oh my God, if I meet another person from London, that's like the sister to the United States. And the way, some of the things and the ways that, I would meet them. Like, I'm out on one of the islands and one of my special notebooks is hanging out of my bag. And this is one of the notebooks that I only put some of the most precious things that I've thought about, or special notes either from school, like special things that go in this notebook. And I have taken some of the passes from the studios that I have been to and kind of just like taped them on there, just, as a keepsake or whatever. So he looks down at my notebook and he's just like, so what did you do at Universal Studios? And I was like, well, I shot a Kellogg's commercial there. I was like, what do you know about Universal Studios? So we started laughing or whatever. And he's like, oh, I have friends in LA, blah, blah, blah. Cut to the chase. He had what I considered to be like a Hollywood mansion party, but this is up in the sky, right? Everybody has condos in Pattaya. So we go over there, we take the elevator all the way up, and it opens up to the living room. So the guy has all this, his caterer has all these like plates set out and these 24 karat gold name plates. Like, it was just really, really cool. But you just never know who you're gonna meet. And make a long story short, he was like, so what did you go to school for? We talked about it. And he was like, are you any good? And I was like, hell yeah. Then that turns into an invitation for his yacht party. Well, I get on the yacht and I'm like, Mohammed, does anybody ever shot this for you? And he was like, no. Why'd I shoot his whole yacht and gave it to him as a gift? All my friends are billionaires and I'm the only asshole making YouTube videos. Look, they asked me to go. I didn't ask to hang with them. One of my boys, he's from Poland. And while he's not from the United States, people from the West still kind of have the same kind of temperament when we get annoyed. One thing you're not going to do is talk about anybody's dog, okay? As a pet parent, I understand this wholeheartedly. So one of our neighbors, he's like a real douche or whatever, right? So he's coming over and he says something to Matt. And I was like, Matt, what'd he say to you? He was like, he was talking about his dog. So he was like, but Melissa, I don't like fake. I was like, yeah, man, I don't like fake either. He was like, what is they call in your country when they do this? And I was like, what you mean? What you mean? He was like, I said, well, in Philly, we just say we want to smack the shit out you. Yes, Melissa, this is what I want to smack him to shit. One of the many and main things that I wanted was to meet people who were smarter than me, so I can finally learn something from somebody else. I was the oldest one in my class, and it's been accurately said, if you're the smartest one in the room, you need new friends. And I'm not talking about academically. I'm talking about, being able to have given those kids life lessons, just by being the oldest one. And my prayers were answered, man. These guys are in cryptocurrency, real estate, investments. We're not even going to talk about oil. And I could get a call from any one of them at any given time, and the next thing you know, we're just doing something. Like we were in my living room, and I saw something go in front of the sun, like, phew. And we both looked over, like, what the hell was that? We go and look off the balcony. There's a paraglider. This mug came right past my balcony. So I look over at Matt. Matt looks over at me, and the next thing he's like, "You want to go?" I was like, "Yep." So we jump in the car.
We will talk about the
And it just happened so spontaneous like that, which was really, really interesting. I would get a call like, let's go golfing, or, let's go race car driving. Let's go paragliding. Let's go do drinks. Let's go to the beach. Let's hang out on the yacht. I needed this trip so bad. My spirit needed this trip so bad. I am so blessed and so thankful because these are lifelong friends that I have now. And even my friend Mohammed, he was like, I'll call you a car and take you to Bangkok to make your flight, this, that, and the other. And y'all, I am so glad that I said no. It's okay to say no sometimes. It really is. One of my biggest insecurities in life is you have just been outdone by friends and now you owe them. And I'm a woman. I got to be careful, you know, and it's okay to say no sometimes. But I'm glad I did say no because I caught an Uber, well, the Bolt. It's like comparable to America's Uber. I caught the Bolt, and this guy was an absolute gem. Now, he stopped 3 times on the way to the airport, and I was like, beloved, what are you doing? He stopped a couple times. We talked. He's like, I have to go to the bathroom. So he pulls over, and I make sure that I take Sophie out to let her, you know, do her business or whatever, and then we get back in the car. And now I have to stop. And I was like, thank you so much for stopping. You know what he said to me? He was like, of course I would stop. You stopped for me. I truly owe you guys an apology. Who the hell goes to Thailand? The best, and I'm not just saying this. Thailand has some of the best food on the planet. Who goes to Thailand and doesn't report back with a great or less than food report? Thailand has some of the best food on the planet. I assure you, I promise you, I can't verbally emphasize it to you enough. However, I got sick. I started eating, when I first got to Thailand, first of all, you know, this UGC thing came about almost right before it was time for me to leave. And so before that, you know, when I would take pictures or whatever, it would just be like, you know, to send to a friend or to, you know, share on my Instagram or whatever. So I didn't shoot it in the YouTube format. I shot it, you know, vertical. Make a long story short, I don't have a whole lot of, you know, reviews and things like that. And maybe I can do something with a still shot. It's just not something that I would like to do. I would have liked to have done that, you know, with a mini movie or video rather. But, you know, I messed around with the street food one day. This is not a black eye to the Kingdom of Thailand. It's not a black eye to anybody there. But I got sick as a dog. And one of my girlfriends, she got sick. She's a home nurse. She was out there with her son. And she got E. coli. And I always thought, you know, I've been to Mexico 3 times. Every time I've gone to Mexico, I've gotten sick. You know, I'm talking about coming home with 500 milligrams of Cipro for a week, like bent over ill, you know. And I think, you know, people are more likely to get sick from food in certain countries compared to the United States due to factors like safety regulations, poor water quality, and pretty much, you know, prevalence of foodborne illnesses in certain regions. Every single time I went, I got sick though. So you guys, if you come out here, you have to make sure that your food is, it's crazy because it's like you want to eat the street food. That's what you do when you come here, but you have to be careful. You do. So my confession. So the pet parents would meet every night at 6 o'clock. And right before that happened, I took Sophie out to take her to drop the puppies off at the pool. So we're off to the side, and when she's done her business, I go to pick it up. And as I'm doing that, 2 dogs are barking at each other. They're like going back and forth. So they were like, rah, rah, rah. So I didn't know if they like bit each other or like what was going on. So everybody was distracted. I was like, oh my God, I feel bad for the dog. Make a long story short, 15 minutes goes by. So everything's calm now, right? So we head back in the house and we're on the elevator. So we're headed back upstairs. And the next thing you know, people are like, something was smelling really, really bad. I forgot to throw Sophie's poop out on the elevator. I'm the worst. The biggest gift that Thailand has given me is I got my creativity back. Oh my God. 7 notebooks, you guys. When I left the United States, headed out here, I was emotionally hemorrhaging. I was in a bad shape. and I needed to get away. It was, when I say need, it was a need. Did 5 countries solo: Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, South Korea. I didn't post a lot of them because I shot my first short film for Southeast Asia and wanted to hold those pictures and videos close to the vest. So I'm working on that, and now that I'm back home in Philadelphia, I'm working on my first horror short. I am stoked about these projects, which is probably why you guys haven't seen me post anything. It was just like, you know, the UGC, I still will do it, you know, but I wanted to do something that more is closely aligned with what I'm here on this earth for, and that's to be a filmmaker. I will always be an actor. You know, once an actor, always an actor. But I went to school for this. I had to stay in the house. I, you know, had to sacrifice some things, going out with some of my friends. I mean, luckily, my friends who are my friends now back in Thailand, they know I've been fully transparent with them. They know what it is I do, and I'm so thankful for that. So, you know, when they were like, Mel, let's go do XYZ, and I was like, I have to learn my L cuts and my J cuts. Give me a second, you know, and then that ended up to be a week. Like, those things needed to get done. Anyway, the sun is going down, and this is going to be my money shot. I think I freaked myself out with this movie. So that's where I'm coming to you live and direct from. I'm out in the woods, and I'm waiting to set up the next shot. So these guys went on lunch, and I wanted to talk to you guys real quick and have the opportunity to tell you what was going on. But thank you so much for the love. Thank you for blowing up my phone. You know, when that earthquake hit, thank you. Shout out to Kia in Boston. She was the first one, like, yo, where are you? What's good? And, you know, I had been here. So I'm good. We're good. I thank you. Stay tuned.